Welcome on into the show, everybody. It is episode 10, season 8 here on the Hoopers Log for Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. That is right. We are here doing a show for you, and we're talking about what went on last night regarding, well, a couple nights ago now, regarding LeBron James and Stewart for the Pistons, between the Pistons and the Lakers. Wanted to get involved in that. I also wanted to talk about kind of where we are in regards to the NBA regular season. We're a week out from the quarter poll on where we are on the NBA regular season. On top of that, Thanksgiving is a couple of days away, so I'm pretty sure you're excited. I didn't anticipate this happening, but for the last however many years, normally how I've done the show is I've projected and put together things regarding trying to schedule out times to do my show, and I've had, the schedules and where I'm normally at and where I'm located in a given time slot when I decide to do my show. I generally try to do it at a time when it's low key and low profile, so that it allows for people to jump into my content as much as possible, right? You want to try to grapple as much audience as much as you can, right? You want to try to get as many people as you can on board for what you're actually talking about and you're doing. And I didn't know this, but apparently inside the NBA, Chuck, Kenny, Shaq, all those guys, Kenny, Ernie, all those guys. I had no idea they switched to Tuesday nights. So now you've got an OG on really the entire NBA media landscape in regards to the entire Inside the NBA crew. We've all been together now for 10 years. Chuck's been there for 20, Kenny's been there for over 25, and Ernie's been there for over 30 years. So you look at the overall scenario that they've got going there, they're just absolutely remarkable at what they do. And I try to pull some things from them. I talked about the whole Jokic mindset deal last episode, talking about where he is overall and what he did and his actions towards one of the Morris brothers and that whole scenario. And they had some interesting points, and I'm not going to bring up any today because obviously today's a different scenario and they haven't talked yet. And I wanted to bring my point up first because I feel like it's relevant and narrative and positive and enlightening, I think, for many people, because I think there's a lot of people on one way or the other in regards to what happened with LeBron James and Stewart last night, in regards to their kerfuffle there on the floor and from what I saw. But first, let's get our sponsors out of the way. Our best podcast here at the Lead SM right now, which is Leading with the W. They're on every Wednesday here. They do an absolutely phenomenal job. Carissa Bailey, Corey Akil, and I know Unk does the edits as well. And we got a couple other people as well who are involved in the show. Konasek, I believe, is in as well. They do an absolutely phenomenal job. I think they are really the lead in regards to, not no pun intended, really. I think they are the definition of the best podcast in the business regarding the WNBA. They give you all the information. They have personality. They're fun. They really get you involved and get you into the nitty-gritty of the ins and outs of the league, which I feel like there are not a lot of outlets for that. And these guys do the best job that I've heard regarding the WNBA. If you know nothing about the WNBA, which I'll be honest, I don't know anything. I listen to them and I'm like, I got somewhat of an idea now. And I feel like I can jump in to a conversation if I ever so dear choose to be in one. And I hear it and I'm like, oh, wow, these guys know exactly what they're talking about. So if you want to listen to the best WNBA podcast in the business, go to Leading with the W here on the Lead SM every Wednesday. Also, Corey and Akil also do the Motorcade 313. Obviously, they're going to be talking about this scenario that I'm talking about today regarding the fight and the incident that happened with Stewart and LeBron, and how I feel like, at least from my perspective, I never felt like it was as big of a deal as everyone's making it out to be. I'm not to say it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. But considering where it all kind of ended up in social media and what happened, him and Isaiah Stewart, LeBron James and Isaiah Stewart, from what I just saw based on the breaking news, Sam Charania, LeBron James has suspended 1 game and Isaiah Stewart receives 2 games suspension for roles and altercation in Lakers Pistons. It's accurate. I feel like it's 100% accurate. Of all the people, right? Of all the people to discuss and talk about this scenario, I feel like I can come in and give the most, I wouldn't say the most objective. That's not fair, because there's guys in the media and there's people in the media who are definitely way more objective than I am. But from the standpoint of my stance on LeBron, which everybody here knows what my stance on LeBron James is. Everybody knows that I don't like LeBron James in regards to who he is as a person, etc. On top of, where I think he stands overall all time, even though I think I'm relatively accurate in where he is for the most part. A lot of people would call me a hater. That's fair. That's totally fair. I'll own that. I'll wear those. I'll wear those clothes. I'll wear that outfit. That's fine. And I ain't upset to say it because I don't like the guy. I just don't. I loved him a lot when I was younger. And then as I've gotten older and as I've seen things, and granted, he's in the spotlight way more than everybody else in the NBA for obvious reasons. He's the most talented player of this generation. There's no debate about that. But in regards to where I've stood for the test of time, people know for the last 5 years I have not been the biggest fan of LeBron James. I anointed him as the best player of all time after the 2016 NBA Finals. I thought he was. I thought he would kind of keep elevating his career. He's gotten better, in times and circumstances and situations, and he's stayed at one of the best players in the league. But I've always felt that his, whether it's good or bad, his narrative of his career has been overinflated for obvious reasons. He's the greatest high school basketball player of all time. From a guy who came out of high school, he's the greatest basketball player ever to come out of high school. I mean, people will debate Kobe Bryant, but for the most part, LeBron James is that guy. And in regards to pure overall talent, it's very, very tough regarding also his size and his skill set. It's just next level. It's generational. But I obviously have my qualms, and there you be. But in this instance with Isaiah Stewart, with the fight that occurred Sunday night or Sunday afternoon or whatever, LeBron James getting ejected, obviously Isaiah Stewart being hurt and being ejected. And now LeBron James getting the 1-game suspension, Isaiah Stewart getting the 2-game suspension. Everybody's, oh, LeBron, he gets a pass. Here comes the pass for LeBron James. Oh, he's the best player in the league. Adam Silver's not going to suspend him, whatever, blah, 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 blah. No one is going to give LeBron James the time of day. Who cares? It's just, this is LeBron. This is what he gets. He gets a special treatment. Listen, when you actually watch the scenario play out, obviously they're at the free throw line. They're going for a rebound. They're on the outside portion of the block, which that part's a little bit questionable, but outside of that, the main overall aspect of this is you see LeBron James trying to go in for a rebound. And the scenario that I love to bring up with people is imagine this scenario playing out on the playground. We're called the Hooper's Log for a reason, right? We give it to you straight. The stuff I talk about here, I would talk about it on the park, and I would have no qualms of bringing it up. If anybody wanted to ask me a question regarding how I feel at the playground and ask me how I actually feel and what I'm talking about right now on the show is how I would have been doing it for the last 8 years. Every single time I'm out at the park, you ask me a question, I give you an opinion, I'm going to give you straight, and I'm not going to lie. Right? If this had played out in the park, first of all, hands would have been thrown, both sides. LeBron James would have thrown hands, and Stewart would have thrown hands. But here's the problem, right? From the moment you watch this incident take place, LeBron James, he gets aggressive. There's no debate about that. He gets his chops into Isaiah Stewart's face so quick and so aggressively that, people will say, oh, it was on purpose. It was intentional. It was this. The last time I checked, basketball can be one of the most physical sports on the planet. Now, it ain't hockey. It ain't the NFL. But in regards to, those two sports have pads. The NBA, you don't wear pads. It's body on body. It's legit body on body. And in that regard, you can make the debate that there are instances where it becomes one of the most physical sports on the planet just from an overall body on body perspective. And when LeBron's going up and trying to, do what he's doing, right? Whether he gets caught or whether he feels like he's in the way or whether he's already got a grudge on Isaiah Stewart, whatever the case is, he decides to throw a hard one. He does. He throws a hard one. Is it intentional? Who knows? More people would lean to the side that yes, is intentional. That's fine. You want to know something? If LeBron James really was super upset at the scenario and would have made it known, and don't get me wrong, LeBron, he's got his antics, and I'll tell you all day the antics that I absolutely despise about the man. But in regards to this situation, who the hell is Isaiah Stewart compared to LeBron James? Let's just back this up for a second. Oh, LeBron, he's getting in a fight with Isaiah Stewart. No, listen. LeBron James is the best player of our generation. Many would say he's the GOAT. It's a debate. It's an actual debate. And that says something. That means he's easily in the top end category of the best player of all time, right? So who the hell is Isaiah Stewart to sit there and be upset at one of the greatest players of all time when something happened to him. That is not to say Isaiah Stewart isn't any less than LeBron James from a man-on-man perspective on who he is and what happened. But what the point being is that Isaiah Stewart, when he had the opportunity, he got destroyed, right? His face was absolutely mangled. I mean, he got absolutely decked. This is the problem. And this is what all of the players and everybody who knows and sees and understands and has been in these situations before. The moment he got shot in the face with LeBron's elbow, and he got absolutely mollywopped, right? He decided, LeBron looked at him and was like, dude, that's on me. That's bad. Like, LeBron knew the moment he saw what he did, he's like, that's not good. It wasn't like, I'm here to get crazy and go buck on you, or like get absolutely nutso on you and try to fight. LeBron was like, dude, I messed up. And to be honest, if the refs would have seen what happened to him, LeBron probably is getting kicked out of that game no matter what. No matter what. Because that was violent. Not on purpose. It's basketball. It happens. Whether it was meant to be a hard shot or whatever, I think LeBron ultimately wasn't looking for a split second. I mean, it looks like he was in the video. If you really watch it, it looks like it's intentional. Trust me, you can make it look like it's intentional, and I get it. But I think he was anticipating trying to hit him in the body, upper body, and really try to send a message. Obviously, he jacked up and screwed up, and he should be suspended. But the main issue I think everybody has, because LeBron was in the wrong in that portion, right? But LeBron turned around after he hit him and was like, dude, I messed up. In those split seconds, right? Couple of seconds, Stewart is right there in the face of LeBron James. That's the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. You're probably in a high level of shock that you just got absolutely obliterated. So he might not have been thinking right for a split second. Like just from an overall, like, in shock, not knowing what the hell just happened because he just got plastered, right? Just absolutely plastered. One of the hardest hits to the face I've ever seen a guy take in the NBA. Really, his face was blown up. Like, that whole cheek was destroyed. And don't get me wrong, for those split seconds, he might have been in shock and might not have known what the heck was actually going on. And then obviously, once that kicked in, fight or fight kicked in. Very old school psychological term, fight or flight. You know, you either walk away or you attack. And clearly, Isaiah Stewart wanted to attack. Ain't nobody going to blame him. Ain't nobody going to blame him being pissed. There's nobody on this earth who would sit there in a fight or flight scenario, could sit there from a natural, instinctual perspective of any angle of any type of human being you can envision. If you get decked like that, and you're going to have one of two reactions, because that is complete over the top by LeBron. Whether he intended to or not is not the point. It happened. Isaiah Stewart at that point is going to react one way or another, and clearly he wanted to fight. My issue is that for that split second after he came to, he had an opportunity. If he was really actually that pissed about the scenario, really, I mean dead ass, if he was that serious, he should have thrown a bow right at LeBron James instantly, and it doesn't matter. Now, maybe he got hit so good that honestly he didn't expect it or think it was LeBron, so he was still thinking in the moment, which is fair. Which is totally fair. So then in that split second I'm talking about, you start looking at it and you say, oh, okay, maybe he was actually trying to analyze the scenario and reassess and reinvigorate and figure out ultimately who did it, and then want to swing on the wrong person. But it's also tough to think that when you're the guy that's on that side of the elbow of the basketball court, and there's only one guy blocking you out. Right? There's only one guy performing the blockout scenario, and that's LeBron. So you know it's him. Right? So it gets really gray. There's not a, he should have decked him or this should have been the scenario here. It's more of a, if you really think it's LeBron, swing at him. Because if you're really that mad, the way he reacted after those split seconds of having the opportunity to go at LeBron in those good couple of seconds after he got hit and got up and was really face-to-face with LeBron. I know there may have been a body or two in between, but he has long enough arms, and he's right there in a good enough shot where he can lay a solid whack on him. He's got the opportunity. And with how he reacted after he then was taken away from the scenario as far away as he could, when he was no longer in a scenario of being able to strike LeBron, if he was really that mad, right? If he was really that mad, he would have sat back and been like, I'm pissed off, and I should have swung and made my opportunity known, right? When you're given the chance and you don't take it, at that point, everything else in regards to the being told to calm down, you got the entire coaching staff holding you back, Dwayne Casey's in your face telling you to calm down, etc., and all these things are taking place. At that point, everything you do becomes non-kosher, right? It becomes over the top, animosity, childish, etc. I know guys are from different parts of the world. I know guys act differently based on what, where they grew up and their makeup of who they are as an individual. Totally understand. And from what I've heard, Isaiah Stewart is from real gritty parts of the country. Ain't nobody gonna be upset at the fact that he was beyond livid because he got absolutely creamed, right? Nobody's gonna be upset at that. But for when he's then finally pushed away and the coaching staff grabs him, for him to then just run through people like he was playing football to try and get to whether it was Dwight Howard, Russell Westbrook, LeBron, I don't know exactly who he was going towards. But for then him to do that and make it way more dramatic than it needed to be at that point, that was when it's like, dude, you really had your chance beforehand, right? In the moment. If Isaiah Stewart had gotten up from getting decked by LeBron and LeBron was saying, my bad, and LeBron got a cold-cocked, fist to the dome and got his nose smashed in even further than it already looks the way it is, or if he had gotten his eye punched out, or if he had gotten a good, solid crack to the mouth, I don't think anybody on this planet would be upset with that because it's a natural reaction, right? It's kind of like when Jokic got hit. Now, don't get me wrong. What Jokic did was over the top. What Jokic did was absolutely asinine from an overall, reactionary perspective. In fact, it was lame because he pushed him in the back. He should have gone in front of him. I've talked about this. I talked about this on the last episode. Go listen to it, episode 9. Go listen to it, Joker's Mindset. Go listen to it. But Stewart had the opportunity to take advantage of a scenario that he was clearly dude, you just got cold cock. Get up, knock the dude out if you want, take a swing. And honestly, if anybody's going to be like, oh, Stewart, he shouldn't have done. No, dude, it's fair game. You got clocked. It was over the top. If this was on the playground, everybody would have backed up and let him duke it out. Because if a dude's throwing a bow that hard on the block, that dude, if he's throwing it that hard on the block, which LeBron did, LeBron asked for these consequences, right? He asked for these consequences. When you decide to throw a bow that hard, you got to know and understand it comes with the consequences. At the end of the day, it is basketball, but we all know we've played this game before. I have had times where I've played the game in high school at a high enough level. I was never a great basketball player. None of those things. I was decent. I was okay. I was good in the playground, but I wasn't anything special. Okay. Nowhere near that. Right. But when you're deciding to rebound on the block or decide to go down low in the post to try and get a rebound, and whether you're the one that's involved in getting the elbow to the face or a body part or whatever, that's part of the game. But then there's the other side of it as well, where if you're down there and you're deciding to get on the block and grab a rebound, etc., and you're not involved, but you see it play out, especially on the playground, and you see it play out, and a dude throws a bow that hard, you know what happens generally? And I know this is the NBA and this is worldwide entertainment. This is stuff that's on, millions and millions of dollars worth of television deals, and people are seeing it and all this other stuff, right? Social media, it's going to grow like wildfire. Totally different from playing on a random playground in Tacoma, Washington, right? Totally different. But if a bow like that was thrown on the park, you know what everybody's doing? Everybody's circling around, making sure somebody doesn't freaking die or get knocked out, and you let them fight for about 10 seconds. Because guess what? You asked for these consequences. LeBron asked for these consequences. That comes with the game. That comes with basketball. That comes with what you do when you decide to throw a bow that hard in the paint. It happens. Nobody's going to sit here and say LeBron was intentionally trying to hurt him. But at the end of the day, LeBron did something that was over the line. He did. And he got a solid shot on Simmons. Or, excuse me. I don't know why I said Simmons. Stevens. Or Stewart. God, I don't know why that's bad. Blanking. Solid shot on Stewart. Where I grew up, you let him fight for 10 seconds. And then after that, you're like, all right, we get it. In the NBA, you get maybe a couple seconds because that's, it just happened. So I understood when Stewart got up and was pissed off. Totally get it. LeBron was in the wrong. He even said it. He even looked at him and said, oh, dude, I jacked up. That's my bad. Like, you saw his shoulders go down. You saw the apologetic figure of LeBron. We all understand and come from whatever narrative we want to pull on LeBron James, but he knew he was in the wrong. He knew what he did was wrong. If Stewart at that moment just got up and just swung a haymaker and it landed in LeBron's face, at that point you say fair is fair. That's what I say. I say at that point fair is fair. I don't condone violence. I don't condone any of that stuff. But when you've played the game and you've seen the game and you've covered the game and you've been around the game and you know the mentality to the game, if that would have happened, we both know they both would have been suspended for the equal amount of time, 2 games. If anything, I think LeBron got the correct suspension. I think he should have been fined to some degree. Because you can't just go in and just throw bows like that and not expect a consequence from multiple angles, whether it's your own face, your pocketbook, or your game check. You know what I'm saying? So, not just your game check, but your ability to play, so that in turn does affect your game check because you can't play. Anyway, the point is that I don't feel like Stewart was in the wrong for reacting the way he reacted. I do think he crossed the line. I do feel like there was a point where it was like, dude, just calm down. I know your face is destroyed. Everybody gets it. Everybody knows LeBron's in the wrong. But now you're taking it to a level and to a degree where it's like, dude, you look like a child. You're acting like a child. And it's getting to the point where it's like, dude, that's just not okay. If you're upset, if you're angry, all these things, go into the locker room, punch a wall, find the whiteboard, the blackboard, whatever you got to do, punch that, break it, break the trash can. Nobody's going to blame you. You just got your S rocked, right? You just got your world rocked. Nobody's going to blame you for going and destroying something for a minute, right? But don't sit there and try to run away from your coaches when they're the ones trying to help you out, because they all know. Everybody in the arena knows that LeBron was in the wrong, right? Everybody in the arena, even LeBron himself, everybody knows he's in the wrong. Why do you have to escalate it to this, this whiny little kid looking like he's trying to go hard when you had the opportunity? And I think that's what everybody's just trying to say. Nobody's sitting here trying to debate the fact that, what LeBron did wasn't wrong, because it was wrong. Nobody's debating what Simmons, God, I keep saying Simmons, what Stewart did wasn't over the line in regards to his reaction, but his natural reaction is understandable. Maybe he just had delayed reactions at the same time. Maybe we can't overtly go into it and be like, okay, what he did was way off and 2-game suspension. No, maybe there's something more underneath that. Maybe there's a reason why he was just so angry. Granted, it was only a couple minutes after it had happened. Everybody reacts in a different manner. So maybe there's that too, right? There's all these different angles that we can pull from and ultimately what had happened. But ultimately, from what I've heard from the players, from what I've heard from retired players, Gilbert Arenas was great. From the things that I have heard from ex-players or current players, I feel like I side with where they are. So, I think LeBron, for what he did, obviously it was over the top, but it wasn't like a non-intentional thing, if that makes sense. Like, he was in the wrong, but it wasn't intentional. Does that make sense? And that's how I felt watching the entire video. Who knows what was said to stir up and make Isaiah Stewart react the way he did more and more and more, right? Nobody knows that intent of what was said to him to reignite the flame, to make him run through people to try and attack more Lakers, right? Nobody knows what was said. That, too, is also not cool. Like, if dudes are trying to rile up him after he gets cold-cocked like that, okay. And also, who knows what Isaiah Stewart was doing in-game, saying in-game. Maybe he was asking for the smoke. Like, if he was asking for the smoke, well, then you just got the smoke from the best player of your life. Like, let's be honest. However old he is, which he's got to be in his young 20s, he ain't ever seen a better player than LeBron James. The only thing he's ever seen better than LeBron James is MJ YouTube clips. That's about it. Outside of that, he ain't seen no one better than LeBron. So you just got it from the best, right? So, again, there's so many things that we don't know, that we don't understand, and that we don't overall see or possibly can articulate enough to make an overall judgment of what happened. But I feel like the thing that came down from Shams just a little while ago is the correct ruling. And if people want to go and yell out LeBron James and, blame him and all this other stuff, that's fine. I don't know if you've ever played the sport of basketball to know that those things happen from time to time. They just do. It used to happen a lot more regularly in the NBA. Guys just didn't react the way Isaiah Stewart did. They usually back off, or they actually swing. Let me just have a lisp in there. They actually swing, and they make something of it. They just react instantly. He had a really interesting delayed reaction, and that is what I think where a lot of people are having the criticism of, bro, you had a chance. So we're a week away from the quarter pull in the NBA, and it's a fascinating time with where we are. Expectations right now in the NBA are malleable, right? We had our preseason expectations. We had all those going on. And I feel like the expectations that we have moving forward need to start becoming more of a permanent expectation than when we walk into the quarter pull at the beginning of December, right? I can give you so many examples. Back in 2014, 2015, December 1st of 2014, the Golden State Warriors got off to their super hot start. Not that nobody didn't have them doing well that year, because they had a great year the year before and the year before that when they went to the semifinals or whatnot. People remember what I'm talking about. But nobody really had real expectations of them being good enough. So we had this thought of, well, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. And I think that kind of thing where we now don't do that anymore. We just go off of what we assume we thought was going to happen back in early October to now, or should I say the beginning of December, we start to sit back and we say, what are the expectations of what's going to happen moving forward, right? What are the expectations of where we currently are or when we're at the quarter pull, right? How can we overall assess these situations based on where we are now, or how the expectations are now shifting and changing? Expectations can destroy us. They can make us think that what we saw before the season or what we assumed before the season isn't or is, or what was unexpected now becomes expected, or before that, what we thought was going to happen, aka the Lakers, to now what they're becoming, which is they're looking like a mediocre team. But it's still early. Great teams can still come from where they are right now and be great, and good teams right now can fall from the pack and turn into a mediocre, if not below average team. It can happen still. But this is the best time of year. Thanksgiving, couple days. I really hope everybody is safe out there when they get out there on the planes to go see family, etc., all that stuff. But this is the time to reset your expectations for the NBA season. You start looking at a team like the Chicago Bulls. What they did on the West Coast trip was phenomenal. They're 12-5 now? You go and you look at the NBA standings and you see the Golden State Warriors up top. The quietest winning streak in the NBA right now. 12 games in a row from the Phoenix Suns. They are now in the qualification, in the conversation of what they're doing right now is a conversation that when you look at them and you see them and where they are at 13-3 in 16 games this year. They started off the season, 1-3? And they've won 12 in a row since. We all know there's going to be a law of averages, right? But I think people coming into this season saw what the Phoenix Suns did a year ago. Majority, not everybody, but a majority of people saw it. And they said, that was a one-off. It was a weird year. The year started basically on Christmas Day. And we're sitting here and we're like, who's going to do what? Crowds weren't fully back yet. All these things, shortened season, etc. Maybe the Suns caught a break, etc. But now they're 13-3 starting a regular year, right? A year where it's 82 games. We're playing 6 months. We go to the playoffs in mid-April. I think now we look at the expectations and we say, I think the Phoenix Suns deserve not just that respect, because they already got that, but they deserve that efficacy and that ability to say, I think this team is legit. I think they're good enough to win a championship, and I think they could potentially be favorites with a team like the Golden State Warriors. I mentioned the Warriors in 2014, 2015 around this time. So about 7 years ago. People were looking, I'll believe it when I see it, right? I'll believe it when I see it. I think people still have that moniker about the Phoenix Suns. I'll believe it when I see it. Because when you look at the Phoenix Suns from what they've done for the last decade, they have been in the garbage. They have been complete dumpster fires. They have. They've been a garbage organization. But since August of 2020, they have found a way to rejuvenate the franchise to be where they are right now, which is, let's be honest, over the last year and a half, they have been, over the last, I'd say 13, 14, 15 months, they have been in the conversation as being one of the hottest teams in the league. Right? Western Conference Finals, 12 games in a row to basically start the season. Within the first week of the year, they've won 12 games in a row. They haven't lost a game in a month. That's legit. That's real life. Hate to burst your bubble. That's real life. They haven't lost a game all month in November. That's ridiculous. Right? So they're getting into that conversation of we need to respect them from the standpoint of I think they're legit. I think they're real. Right? We need to reevaluate that expectation of that. Golden State is now back to what they were prior to all those injury problems of 1920 and then obviously last year. Right? And last year they almost got to the playoffs going through the play-in scenario, which totally everybody did not see really coming. But with the way Curry was playing, and then obviously now with guys like Jordan Poole stepping up, etc., they're now 15-2. Suns are 13-3. We're a week out from the quarter pole. Those two teams need to be seen as the favorites now in the West. Have to. You have to do it. You have to reevaluate and say those have got to be the favorites. Because they have pedigree, they have structure, they have that longevity now, somewhat, especially the Warriors. Utah's been okay. They've been 11-5. That's a great start. Clippers 10-7, especially with all their, injuries and them figuring things out. Denver was a team I had really high praise for. They're 9-8. They're figuring it out. The Lakers, they're 9-9. They're figuring it out, right? People are saying that this LeBron suspension is going to reinvigorate them. I hope it does. And I think everybody else is saying that. But we got to reevaluate it. The Bulls. People came into this year thinking, I'll believe it when I see it. They're 12-5. They don't have that long-term efficacy because they really have not been that good really for the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years. They have not been in that conversation of being a legitimate team to talk about. But now, 12-5, they're hanging out with the Brooklyn Nets, who we all expect to be where they are at 12-5. Washington has been another one of those teams where it's like they're trying to prove us. They're trying to be the young bucks to figure out and tell us, hey, we're trying to be real. They got to prove it, right? Miami, they got one of the best coaches in the league. They deserve our respect. Miami's going to be a middle-of-the-pack Eastern Conference team. We got to have that expectation for them now. The rest, everybody else, from Charlotte all the way down to Toronto, even Indiana, you look at them and you say, yeah, we'll just wait and see, and we'll still kind of figure it out. This is also the time of year when you get to the quarter pole where you can just eliminate teams, right? Houston, New Orleans, San Antonio, Orlando, and Detroit. Let's just wipe them off the expectations. If they do anything miraculous from here on out, it is that very thing, miraculous. We'll go in depth on it next show. We'll really dive deep into each of these teams and to where they are, and I'll make sure to give you a perspective on why I think their expectation has changed for where they're going at the quarter pole. We'll really break down the standings. We'll really break down the storylines we've had to this point. We'll really break down and give you a concrete base for what to see for really the next quarter of the season going into the halfway mark, which is generally around right before or right around Martin Luther King Day, when the dog days really begin after Christmas. That's when the dog days of the NBAs begin. So there is a lot going on. There is a lot that's happening. A lot of good things in the NBA. A lot of interesting, a lot of different things going on. Right? And so I wanted to get that ready for you as you get yourself ready for Thanksgiving, as you see how everything kind of plays out for you moving forward on your expectations, not just that, but also kind of for us here at the Lead SM, whether it's on Podbean, whether it's on Apple Pod, it could be anywhere for you, right? Find us on Twitter, you find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on all these platforms that were available to you. Come check us out. We're available for you, and we're ready to hear you out. All right? Thanks again for listening, everybody. I've enjoyed this today. Been a heck of a show. Like I said, leading with the W Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving. They're going to have some incredible stuff for you. They always bring it in regards to that league. On top of Motorcade 313, they're going to have, I think, a fantastic, phenomenal, way better breakdown than I ever will of this Isaiah Stewart and LeBron James battle that happened, right? They're going to give you the inner workings of what Detroit is going through regarding that scenario. That is what I would really, really recommend you go listen to, because I just gave you my general, inflection of what I think happened, right? From what I saw, from the clips, from the backlash, from the responses, I'm giving you my general response. They're going to have, I think, the best one of everybody else, and they would be the ones to go listen to. Corey and Akil are going to break that down to an incredible degree, and I also think that leading with the W is going to just keep on giving the hits, because that's all they do. They just keep giving the hits, and ain't nobody going to debate that. All right, thanks again for listening, everybody. Episode 10 is in the books. Episode 11. Season 8, Episode 11, November 30th, the last day of the month. The quarter pole will be at an end. The holiday season will be in full effect. We'll be giving out our quarter pole. I wouldn't say awards, because awards is dumb. You can't give out awards in the first 20 games of the season. You can't do that. That's just stupid. But we will give you kind of the layout of what the new base of the expectations of where we are moving forward will be. And we'll also kind of guide you through what to expect for the next month and a half regarding where we kind of see things matriculating. Because now we've got ourselves a base for what the regular season has provided. 20 games in the books plus 20, 21, 22 games in the books for most teams going into next Tuesday when we give you our show, Episode 11, Season 8. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I enjoyed it. Have a good one.